All right, welcome back. So we just learned back in part one that the second line of the treble clef staff goes through the pitch G. So let's figure out where the other pitches from the music alphabet fit onto the staff right now. There we go. Now, if we wanted to keep going up, we would restart at the next letter in the alphabet. Now, hopefully you remember from our musical alphabet, we talked about this in the Michael Myers time, that after G, we repeat back to A. And we go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, guys, I'm going to demystify this whole thing right now. If this is confusing you, listen, if you forget everything else today, remember this one thing. Once you know one note on your staff, you can figure out all of the rest by following this rule. We always go from line to a space between the lines, to a line, to a space, to a line, to a space, to a line. Even if we go lower, line, space, line, and then we get to this big space down here where there are no more lines that we can see. All you got to do is follow your music alphabet every time you move one of those. Kind of like in checkers or chess when you go from a dark space or a light space. They're always one after the other. Line, space, line, space, line. If G is a line, that means the letter before and after it have to be these spaces. So if I went down, it means I'll be going backwards in the alphabet. So if G is a line, that would mean that F would go in this space right below G. So I'm going to have you guys draw another whole note right in between the first two lines, in the first space, as we call it. And we can label this one F. Now, for those of you that are wondering, this is kind of dry. I don't want to be doing this. There is a reason for this, guys. We're going to be using it today. And if you don't have a decent understanding of these basic foundations, you're going to be really confused. So stick with me here. So if I keep following that same rule, let's see who here can tell me what the note with the bottom line going through it would be. If we said G was a line, we're going backwards now because we're going lower. That means that this note right here would be, the space in between would be F. And if F is a space, the line below it has to be E. Okay? Now, if you're wondering why I'm going backwards, I'll make some more sense of it in just a moment. Now, even though this note is technically below all 5 of these lines, there's no line going through it, which means it has to be a note in a space. Now, the top of the note is right against the E line. So if we went down from E, the space below E would have to be the letter D. If you guys take a look, we've been going backwards this whole time. That may confuse you. Let's go back and take a look now. So if we said that D is this space right here, this big space but below all 5 of these lines, if we wanted to go up to the next line, we just go to the next letter in the alphabet. So space, line. F would be the next space. G would be a line, which means that if we wanted to go to this second space up here above the G, that would be A. The next line would be B, space would be C, line would be D, space would be E, F would be the top line, and then G would sit on top of that line if you technically wanted to keep going higher. But there's a reason I stopped at G. It's not just because this is called a G clef. It's because we only have 5 fingers on our right hand, and we're going to learn a song today that requires us to work on a piano keyboard. Now, as you can see here, I put 4 notes. So we could use 4 fingers, but we have a thumb. So what will we use our thumb for? If we take a look here, we're going to play D with our pointer finger, E with our middle finger, F with our ring finger, G with our pinky, which I'll explain a little bit more later on. What will we be using our thumb for? Well, it would have to be lower than D. So what we're going to do here, we're going to say, well, we can't go lower than D. There's no line. If we have to follow the line space rule, how are we going to get to C? Well, this is kind of funny trick that we can do in music where we can just add a line, but not a whole line, just a line for a note, like this. Voila, I added a line. Yeah, I know, it's like the Wild West, there's no rules. So right here, I add the line. I'm going to draw our note on the line. You can see it's got a little bit of the line going on either side of it, so we know. Well, of course, this is the line below D. If D is a space, the next line below it has to be C. And now we have C, D, E, F, and G going up our staff here. These are the first 5 pitches you're going to need to know. And we got to remember, guys, this is only when we deal with treble clef, which is what we're going to focus on more than anything else. So just stay focused on this. How can we use this? You know, like we've got these notes, we've got these symbols, whoop-de-dee. I'll show you. Why don't we take your paper and flip it on over? What I want you guys to do is take your hands, and we're actually going to trace each one of our hands. So when we're done, we should end up with something that looks a little bit like this. Now, your hands may look a little prettier than mine, but hey, There you go. So now first things first, we can immediately tell when we put our hands down that the thumbs are in the middle. So this right here is going to be our left hand. And this, of course, is going to be our right hand. Now, for what we're doing today, we're not even going to worry about our left hand. We're going to focus everything right in here on our right hand. Now, just like I kind of showed you and hinted at a moment ago, we're now going to take these 5 pitches and put them onto this hand. The whole point of us doing this is to actually take this hand and we're going to use it on a piano keyboard. That's where we're going. That's the best way to learn this. Otherwise, this is going to be kind of just boring. So we're going to apply it immediately. So the right hand is going to be used for our treble or higher pitched notes, which is what our treble clef says. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw a treble clef right here just to remind us that our right hand is going to be dealing with the higher pitched notes. Now, just like our fingers are, and just like the musical alphabet is, we're going to go from left to right now, okay? So we're going to take these 5 notes and apply them to these 5 fingers in order. So our thumb is going to be the note C. Our index finger, or pointer finger, we're going to label it with the note D. We're going to label our middle finger with the note E. We're going to label our ring finger, the 4th finger across between our pinky and our middle finger. We're going to label that F, and our pinky finger, our pinky finger, we're going to call this G. When we talk about playing piano, we also label each finger with a number. So this is going to be, our thumb and our right hand is going to be finger number 1. Our index finger will be finger number 2. Our middle finger will always be finger 3. Our ring finger will be 4. And our pinky finger will be finger number 5. And you'll see why I put these numbers here later on. The numbers do not have so much to do with the actual pitch names as much as they do with the fingers on our hand and how we put them onto the piano keyboard, which we're going to take a look at in just a moment here. Now, before I go any further, it'd be really dumb of me not to mention about this note C. This is not just any note C, because if you guys remember what I told you before, if I wanted to go higher than this G, which I did not label yet, which we'll talk about down the road when we need it. If I want to go higher than that G, this next space between the G line and the next line would have to be the note A, because like I said, if you go higher than G, you just repeat your process. So this space right here would be A, which means the next line up would be B, which means the next space up would be C. So this would be C, but here I'm telling you that there's a line down here with C. Yes, this is okay. But this C with the line through it is certainly different, because if you've ever been near a piano before, you may have heard someone say, hey, where's middle C? If you've ever heard that term middle C, they're talking about this particular C right here that is down below our treble clef staff. So this C right here is what we call middle C, which I would label if I were you, just so you guys know. So cool. You got all this information on this hand. Let's use it. Let's take a look at what we're going to learn today. I'm sure this is a song most of us have heard before, a pretty popular one, especially this time of the year. And believe it or not, it's not actually about a holiday. It's actually more of a song about Thanksgiving, believe it or not. But we hear it a lot at this time of the year. All right, snow's coming down. Let's go ahead and learn this one. So first thing we're going to do is just take a look at what's going on. This can be slightly overwhelming when you first see it, but let's just take a look at what we know, okay? We don't need to worry too much about the words. We all know the words to Jingle Bells by now, most of us, I'm sure, and of course the title of the song. So we can take a look at the rest of it. The first thing we see right here, we see a treble clef, which we talked about today. This treble clef is, of course, on a staff. We have these 5 lines going across for each line of the song, so we now know about that. Right next to our treble clef, we have what we call, if you remember back from our rhythm time, a time signature, 4/4 time. Of course, that means that we're going to have 4 beats in a measure, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later on. So now we can focus on the pitches of the song. We can see that the first 6 notes all have the bottom line going through them. So going back to the cheat sheet that we have here, we can see that if the bottom line of the staff, the lowest line of the 5, is going through the note, that must mean that it is E. So we can know that the first 6 pitches of Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells, are all on the pitch E when we go to learn this today. Okay? All right, my friends, we'll be back to finish this up with part 3 just after the break. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Be sure to come on back. Bye now.